Hey, it's your boy Chili here. Welcome back to ROM Hacking Warriors of the Eternal Sun. As I said, I was started my playthrough of the version 1 patch, and let me tell you, I'm having a lot of fun with it. I think the changes to the combat make it a much more enjoyable experience. But as I was playing, right away I started getting like a list of things that I'm like, I could change this. This looks wrong. This looks bad. And partway through, I just decided, you know what? I'm just going to do version 2 of the patch and play through that because there's still plenty of stuff that I want to fix and make the game a more entertaining and authentic experience. So here is the new list of stuff that I think should go into version 2. And what we're going to talk about today is XP. Because the way the game works right now, whoever kills the monster gets all the XP. And I was reading some old reference material, manuals and such, and I thought it said the same thing. So I was like, well, it's in the manuals, so I guess that's fine, although it would be more convenient to have the experience shared out. Now, if you think about it, like in themes, like if you got like a spellcaster who puts the guys to sleep, and then a thief who, stabs him in the back of the neck, like, shouldn't that XP be shared? Shouldn't, like, it going all to the thief? Seems a little wonky. But I thought, well, that's what the rules say, so that's what we're going to do. But, so I had posted a little thing about my patch on a Reddit, subreddit. So someone mentioned this. And I had figured, well, it's not actually in the rules, so I'm probably not going to do it. But before I replied to him, I checked the rule books, and I checked the most recent one that I have, which is the Cyclopedia. And I found it says you should divide the experience. I'm like, okay, well, here's a definitive source saying that you should do that. And also, I want to do that. So let's do it. So for reference here, I've got just a raw, unpatched version of the ROM here. I got the piss party back. And we are about to kill us some boar. Yeah. All right. The kill was awarded to our mage. We look in the inventory. They had started with 2,500 to next level, and they're now at 2,426. But if we look at our elf, so they started at 4,000, and they're now at 3,996. So they gained 4 experience. So they didn't gain 0. They gained a little bit. But this dude gained a lot. Like 24? 74? Yeah. 74. So why is that? Well, the way it works basically is if you do the kill on the enemy, you get the experience for that kill. But after the end of the battle, like, stuff is shared out. Basically, any gold is shared out. And you get 1 experience point for each gold piece. Meaning that this was the gold that was shared out. Basically, 4 gold pieces per character. Yeah, because she was at 1430 and now she's at 1426. But all the experience from the monster was just focused on 1 character. And that's annoying. That's a problem. We need to fix that. Now, the biggest problem starting any project like this, any feature, is trying to find out where the code lives in the ROM. I can't just grep that stuff, look for experience or anything. No. So what is a boy to do? Well, here's the actual function that awards experience to a single character. And the way that I found it was, if you remember, I said I was going to watch all of the character sheet attributes. And anytime they were accessed, it would hit a breakpoint, and then I would basically chart those. And that's what I've done here. So I can see here that I was watching the level, and it's accessed twice. And that basically, that gave me the little piece, the little seam, that loose thread that I could pull on and unravel the whole mystery. So once I know, okay, well, here's where, it's accessing the level, it's where it's writing to the level. The important part is that where it writes, because it reads the level all over the place. Level is important for a whole bunch of different calculations, as you've seen in the melee. But here, it is actually, somewhere it is writing to the level. I don't remember where. And so the first thing I did was, okay, well, let's see if I can, read the code and try to reverse engineer it. Just sight read it and figure out what's going on. And, a lot of this I figured out pretty quickly. I figured out, this global variable is where the XP is actually stored. So this is kind of like passing to this function by global variable, which is something they do a lot, and it's very nasty. but it is what it is, right? So, and this is actually, it's fairly convenient for me, as you'll see later on. And we're checking to see if it's XP is 0, you're not going to do anything. If the character is dead for some reason, you're not going to get any experience. And here's where I have my thunk. We'll look at that in a second. But yeah, we're loading the class, and what we do is there's a table here, and it's a table of addresses. So every class has its own routine, its own algorithm for calculating the level up. And so you load the class in here, you do a lookup into that table, and then you're going to do a jump. And then after that, it actually compares what the level was before and after to see if the character leveled up. Because this jump here doesn't only handle leveling up, it just handles how experience is added, and it checks for leveling up. And then it also does, I believe, the increase of the HP. So it looks at the constitution, does a roll, and decides how much HP you get. And if you did level up, it actually goes and it loops and it goes again, because if you get enough experience, you could possibly do multiple levels up in a single awardation. Yeah, so here's where it branches back up to here to do it all again if you got multiple levels up. But if you didn't, it's going to skip this stuff here. Now, this stuff happens only when you level up, and there's a bunch of stuff here, like what JSR level up. It's doing a whole bunch of shit. I don't even understand. Like there's a lot of crazy shit going on in here. I have no idea what it does. I assume some of it is like when you level up, it does like a little yell. It goes, yeah! And some of that is going to be in here. There's some animation here, the looping. So, I don't know. But the beautiful thing about this is I don't actually have to know what it does. As long as I can figure out the places that I need to change, everything else is good. Now, the thing I actually need to change here is the call into this function. Because right now, it's just whatever character gets the kill for that character, they get all the XP. So what I need to do is I need to replace that with my own little hooked modification. And what my hooked modification is going to do is it's going to take the XP, it's going to divide it by the number of living characters, and then call XP award for each character. So that's not this one. This is something different. We'll talk about that in a second. So we got to figure out, okay, so who is calling into this? How can I figure that out? And the way I do it is, well, I know I can set like a breakpoint here. And then what I do is I start a trace. And that trace is going to log all the instructions executed, and it'll break here. So you can see here's a trace of what I did in the dungeon. So I had some dungeon combat. I set a breakpoint here, 554A. You can see it right here. And then I traced, and I could see how I led up into that point. And so I could see here, okay, so it was being called from 12056. And then I go to 12056. And you can see here, so here's the function that calls into that. And I kind of looked over it a little bit and gave it a name. This is the XP given big boy dungeon, because it's a big boy and it's in the dungeon and it calls into the XP giving. See, it's a very scientific nomenclature that I've got going on here. All I did here was I replaced the call to XP award with my own thunk. And then my thunk calls XP award after dividing out the experience. So a extension thunk share out XP. So that is living here in the code, and we can see it's being called by XP given big boy dungeon and XP kill 1. So this routine happens, I guess, when you kill, probably. I don't know. Like, I just name them XP kill. I don't know what a lot of them do. I just know what they're associated with. But I do know that this is where the XP was awarded to the character that got the kill. Now it's going to call into my thunk. And what is my thunk doing? So the thunk share out XP, it reads that global variable, XP being awarded, and it divides it by the number of living characters, which is also in a global variable. And then we loop from 0 to I less than number of living characters. And for each of those character sheets, we call XP award with sheet, which just puts this pointer into A0 and then calls the function, because we have to pass by register. And this, I created this beautiful little boy, and this is just creates an ASM volatile that moves. Interesting. I have to fix this. So right now it moves whatever variable that is into the register. But the problem is that this one is for moving addresses. I need one also just for moving normal stuff, moving into data registers, if you will. Okay, well, I'll have to do that later. But anyways, so yeah, we divide, we award to each character that is living, and just to be safe, I remember the original XP and I restore that into XP being awarded, because I don't know if it's referenced anywhere else afterwards. I could check, but I'll just revert it back to its previous, and that'll be safe. And that's it. And let me tell you, it works like a charm. It's beautiful. Now, while I was working on the XP, there was another thing that I was kind of eyeballing for a while, and that was the prime requisite. So let me bring up a little bit of resource material here. So in the rules cyclopedia, this is probably the definitive resource for basic D&D. There's something called prime requisite. So each character class requires prowess in one of the abilities. So for example, a fighter requires strength, a cleric requires wisdom, so on and so forth. And what this actually means in terms of gameplay is that if you have a very low score in your prime requisite, you get a experience reduction. But if you have a very high number, you get bonus experience. And so I wanted to implement that because, I mean, stats like intelligence and wisdom, they're not being used at all as far as I can see. I have watches on them. I don't see them referenced anywhere except for when you're loading them, to display them on the character sheet. So I want to increase the amount of usage of these stats and make them do something. And one way to do that, and staying within the rules, is to implement this prime requisite. And I could see when I was doing the level up, it wasn't referencing these things. So nowhere does it do this bonus calculation. So that's what we're going to do. So if we go back to XP award, we're going to get in, the XP awarded into here in this global. What we are going to do is we're going to jump to a func, apply XP based on class. And that's just going to take in the character sheet in A0, and it is going to add experience to the character based on this function here, adjust XP based on class. And it takes in, pointer to the character sheet and also the value of XP being awarded. So what do we do in this one? We switch on the character I call get class. Gets the character class. Actually, I'll show you this one. Go. And then based on which class it is, we're just going to call a different function that adjusts, the XP. Give it the character sheet, give it the XP to adjust, and it returns the adjusted amount. And then that's just added onto here. So for each one of these, it just implements that table that I showed you. So for the cleric, we check the wisdom. Is the wisdom greater than or equal to 16? Then you get a 10% bonus. So divide by 10, add that to the XP. If it's greater than or equal to 13, you get a 5% bonus. So divide by 20, and then add that to the XP. By the way, this divide function, go to definition here. The CPU, 6800, doesn't have a hardware divide instruction. So you have to do it manually. And this is a kind of fast way to do it with shifting. I can't take credit for this. This is like 90% ChatGPT wrote this code. So that also means that if it goes wrong, I can blame ChatGPT. Yeah, but that's it. And fun little fact. Before this P player A0 was being stored in A2 before this loop, and here you can see it's restoring from A2 into A0, and so that was here where this no op is. And when I did that, what would happen is it would get A0 would get trashed by this function, and so it would be pointing to weird stuff. And then when it did the comparison for level before and after experience gain, it would always detect that there was a level up, and then it would, so every time you kill a monster, it would always go ruh, ruh, and it's kind of cool, but it's not not exactly working as intended, so I fixed that. Alright, so I'm back in the patch ROM, and I've got just the default starting party, and they got themselves into a little bit of a spicy combat here. But we have the power of cheating on our side, so let's see what we can do. First of all, inventory. We can see here that they're all just base 0 experience, so nice round numbers, so we'll be able to tell easily how much they get after this kill. Now, let us do a little smacky smacky. Alright, so what do you roll? You rolled a 9. No, actually, I think that's a mistake. I think you actually rolled 16 there. We'll see. Is that enough? Yeah, that is enough. Now, the damage you're going to do, you get a little bit of a bonus on this one. So, let's say you're going to do an additional 32, 48 damage. It's about 48 bonus. Yeah, that seems about right. All right. So, let's see what happens. So, I don't have my headphones in. I don't know if they yelled, but I think they might have yelled. Let's see the inventory. Okay, so you're still level 1. Maybe they didn't yell, but you got, you were at 2,500 and now you are 17. So you got several hundred XP. What about you? You got a lot of XP? You're not quite there yet, but this definitely shared out a huge amount of XP. Maybe about 750, yeah? Yeah, that seems about right. 748. And in order to definitively verify that the prime requisite stuff is working, we have to know the XP before and after, and then do the vicious. It works. Just trust me, it works. And this is gonna make stuff like leveling up a lot easier, because obviously a lot of times your spellcasters, your healer, isn't gonna get a lot of the finishing blows. It doesn't mean they're not a valuable member of the party. It doesn't mean they shouldn't be rewarded, right? So this is definitely a huge upgrade. It's going to make my playthrough nicer. It's going to bring the game closer in line with the actual rule set. But like I said, there's plenty more where that came from. I'm going to be working through these. I'm currently actually working on this one. And this is it's a hard one to implement, but it is going to be such a huge quality of life upgrade. But that's a story for another video. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, please click the like button, helps a lot. And I will see you again with some more ROM hacking on the Genesis, Warriors of the Eternal Sun.